Hey guys, this is Derek from Tap and Turn Gaming, and I'm here today with a how-to on deck building, and this topic will be color identity. Now the cool thing about EDH is you have to pick a general to lead your deck, so for the purpose of this example, Worth the Raid Mother is my general. Now picking a general, what that does is that automatically sets what colors you can and can't play. Now you see she's red-green and no other colors, that means I can only play red-green. If she happened to have a black mana symbol on her, I could play red-green-black, but she doesn't. So I'm limited to solely red or solely green. So I'm going to go through a few cards you could and couldn't play based on their color identity. Up first we have Howl of the Night Pack. This is a green sorcery. Now as you can see it's mono green. That means I can play it just fine. So this will go into a could play pile. The second card I'm going to go over is Tainted Strike. Now as you can see this card is black. It is mono black. It is no other colors. And because our general is not black, I cannot play it. It goes into a cannot be played pile. Up next here we have a Crow and Horse. Your basic artifact creature has a couple abilities. Doesn't really matter. It's not really relevant for the topic of this discussion. But this card is colorless. It has no colors at all. And that makes it fine to play. Because it has no color identity, that means it has no restrictions. That means you can play it in your deck. Up next we have Searing Spear, a 2-cost instant. Now as you can see this is a mono red. It's a red card, has red right here, no other mana symbols anywhere else. It's a mono red card. Our general happens to be red, so I can go ahead and play this. And that's just fine. Now we have a Vesuva. This is a colorless land. As you can see this has no mana symbols on it anywhere at all. That makes it completely colorless. That means it has no color restrictions. That means I can play it. Up next we have Grixis Panorama. This is one of a few cards that gets around color restriction by referencing other colors. And the reason that is, as you can see, it has no mana symbols anywhere. It is a colorless card. And that's good. But you'll notice in the text box, it says you can sacrifice Grixis Panorama to search your library for an island, swamp, or mountain. Now it does say island and swamp, but it doesn't show their mana symbols. So that means you can play it. It gets around color restriction. You could use this as a very cheap, very ineffective land filter if you so choose because of budget restrictions or anything like that. Or you just need another colorless land. You could play this because it does tap for 1. But though it does mention swamp and it does mention island, it does not have those mana symbols, which means it is fine for you to play it. And so that will go into the can play pile. Now here is an example of a multicolored card. Terminate kills a creature. We all know what it does. Now as you can see it is red, but it is also black. Now being as it's red you could play it, but being as it's black you cannot. So you cannot play this in your deck. So this goes into the cannot be played pile. Now here we have an example of a colorless card with a different color identity. Golgari Signet. As you can see there are no colored mana symbols in its cost. So it is a colorless card, but on the face of it, tap 1 and it to get a green-black. That right there sets its color identity. This is a perfect example of a card having a different casting cost than its color identity. It's a colorless card for all intents and purposes, but it has a green and a black mana symbol, making this the color identity of green-black. And because it's partly black, you guessed it, cannot be played. Because we don't have black on our general. Now here's another example of a multicolored card. This one is a border post. It is blue and black. Both blue and black we cannot play, so we cannot play this card. This is just an example of an artifact that is colored, just for the point of having the example, but there is no way you could play this. It's not red or green, and it is 2 colors that you cannot play. So it goes into the cannot be played pile. And our last example for the point of color identity is this card right here. Now this is Vitu-Ghazi the City Tree, card from the original Ravnica block. It's a land. It's colorless. As you can see there's no mana symbols on it, but down here in the text box you can see a green and a white mana symbol. Now as we talked about with the Signet earlier, that does set its color identity. Now while this is a colorless land, no colors at all, it does have that green and white mana symbol. That makes it both green and white for its color identity, and because it is white, that means you cannot play it. So that will go into the cannot be played pile. So I have a bunch of cards you can play, a bunch of cards you can't play, based off your general being red-green. So I hope that really gives you some good examples of cards you could and couldn't play. If you have any questions about cards with certain color identities, just hit us up in the comment section. Let us know of any other cards that you have a question of what color identity it may be. Flip cards and double face cards are a big question for people's color identity. So, just ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask the question. We'll just answer you. But yeah, thanks a lot. Like, comment, subscribe, and that's basically a how-to on color identity.